Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. It's my privilege to get up and I believe close things off today. So looking forward to hopefully a good discussion here that's beneficial to the people of Canada, and particularly the people of Northumberland Clark. So I rose to my feet on June 9th to ask a question with respect to housing. And just to reiterate or summarize the question, it was in 2015, housing costs were an average of 38% of Canadian households. Today, it's an overwhelming 52%. That's a dramatic increase of upwards of over 20%. And so we're now sitting here in a housing crisis that continues. And the housing crisis in some ways has actually worsened because we are now seeing people who are facing a renewal of their mortgages. They can't afford to stay in their houses. We're seeing an uptake in foreclosures and power of sales, and that has a devastating impact to many families across Canada. But at the same time, we're seeing housing also people lose equity in the value of their house at the same time. So we've got only a problem that really only Liberals create, that the same people can't afford to keep their house, people can't afford to buy their houses, and people are also seeing a decline in the value of the houses at the same time. And really, the heart of this issue comes down to some fundamental economic issues that have arisen over the last 10 years. We have seen an incredibly bad economy over the last 10 years. And if you don't believe me, just ask the Prime Minister. In his speech, he talked about how bad the economy has been managed over the last 10 years and how bad his party has done with it almost reads like a Monty Python skit, with the Ministry of Industry now being the Ministry of Finance. So the one who helped direct us into this economic quagmire is now being put in charge of the future. And somehow this is supposed to be a new government, a government that has woken up. So while I agree with some of the Prime Minister's criticism of the past 10 years, because there can be no doubt, what we need is a new direction, and we need a new direction where people can afford houses again. But let me just run through a couple of the economic numbers, just in case people out there are unaware of just how challenging the economy has gotten over the last decade. We had the third lowest growth in the OECD amongst 30 nations, dropping well below the OECD average. In fact, GDP per capita, which is just simply the economic output per person, has dropped to almost 0% over the last 10 years. It's really been an economic lost decade, which has put Canadians in a position of earning less and things costing more. Because at the end of the day, it's not the amount of money you print, it's how much and how efficiently you produce goods. And in Canada, we've seen a market loss relative to the rest of the world, which has created an economic nightmare where people are unable to afford the basic necessities of life, everything from food to housing. Now, we've got an entire generation that has nearly given up the hope of owning a house. And what is this Prime Minister's response? He says, you've got to make sacrifices. Well, why doesn't he make some sacrifices? The billions of dollars he's got invested in Brookfield and other countries, why doesn't he donate that? Why doesn't he make some sacrifices? Instead of telling our young people, well, we know you can't afford houses, suck it, is his response to them. And we need to do better. When will this government finally wake up, change direction, and make housing affordable again?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Housing and Infrastructure.
Mr. Speaker, the Government of Canada is taking action to solve Canada's housing crisis. We are making housing more affordable and attainable for Canadians because everyone deserves a place to call home. Too many Canadians across the country are struggling with the high cost of housing, and the federal government is focused on solutions. We're starting to put money back in Canadians' pockets by reducing middle-class taxes and saving two-income families up to $840 a year. We are cutting the goods and services tax on new homes at or under $1 million for first-time homebuyers, delivering savings of up to $50,000. And we are lowering the GST on new homes between $1 million and $1.5 million. We've also made it easier for Canadians to save for their first home by raising the limit on the tax-free home savings account. Young families and first-time homebuyers deserve the same opportunities to own a home that their parents did. Restrictive planning policies, rising municipal fees, and insufficient support for housing at all levels of government have contributed to higher costs, construction delays, and a lack of affordable housing. The Government of Canada is committed to lowering housing costs and restoring affordability. Since 2017, funding delivered through the National Housing Strategy has reduced or eliminated housing need for more than 655,000 households. We have created or committed more than 170,000 new housing units, but we know there's still more work to do, and we're not stopping there. On September 14th, Prime Minister Carney and Minister Robertson launched Build Canada Homes. This new federal agency is part of a broader series of federal measures to double housing construction, restore affordability, and reduce homelessness. It will focus on using Canadian-made materials and modern construction methods, such as factory-built housing, to catalyze an entirely new Canadian housing industry, one that builds faster and more sustainably. Build Canada Homes complements the National Housing Strategy and Canada's housing plan by adding a bold new federal approach to building affordable housing. It will build on the success of these initiatives while focusing primarily on non-market housing and catalyzing a more productive home building industry. The Government of Canada is working closely with builders, investors, Indigenous partners, and all levels of government to implement innovative solutions to address these complex issues. We're using every tool at our disposal and taking coordinated action to help ensure more Canadians have access to affordable and attainable housing.
The honourable member for Northumberland Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And Winston Churchill once described, if a country tries to tax itself into prosperity, it is analogous to a man or a woman standing in a bucket and pulling on the handle as hard as they can and wondering why they don't go up. If, in fact, more government spending was the answer, we would have one of the best economies in the world and we would have affordable housing. The reality is, over a tremendous amount of expenditures, and they said, don't take my word for it, take the Prime Minister, who said just last night that government expenditures have grown by more than 7% on the operational side over the last decade. So they spent. And in fact, I had the Housing Minister, now the Justice Minister, who was in front of committee, and I asked him, how many houses has the Housing Accelerator built? His answer was 0. And so that is what government will accomplish. They will spend millions and millions of dollars, but the problem will remain the same. When will this government finally wake up and get out of the way so the home builders can build homes?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, the Government of Canada is building on our successes and continuing to make historic investments in housing. Build Canada Homes will leverage public lands, offer flexible financial incentives, attract private capital, facilitate large portfolio projects, and support manufacturers to build the homes that Canadians need. We encourage the opposition to work with us so that we can build the homes Canadians need. As the Prime Minister has said, it is time to build, and that means building housing at a scale and pace not seen in generations. That's exactly what we're going to do.